Welcome to the deep dive. So today we're tackling a question that it really challenges the very foundation of how we see ourselves.
It really does.
Do humans actually have zero free will? I mean, zero agency over their actions?
It's the radical premise from neuroscientist Robert Sapolsky in his book Determined, and it's an explosive thesis.
So our deep dive today is going to explore that. Not just the neuroscience, but what it means for society.
Exactly. Sapolsky's whole mission here is to argue that accepting this,
Yeah.
that all our actions are just biological and environmental luck.
Stuff we have no control over.
Right. He says accepting that is the only way we can create a truly humane society.
Okay, that is a monumental claim. So let's start where he does. He brings up a historical example, right?
He does. He goes back to the 1800s in France and he looks at epilepsy.
Ah, right. And how society used to see the behavior during a seizure as a kind of a moral problem, culpability.
Exactly. And over time, that shifted. We started to see it as what it is, a medical condition. And that shift is the template for his whole argument.
So what's the modern parallel he uses?
Well, the big one he points to is obesity. It's so often framed as a failure of self-discipline.
What he calls Calvinist self-discipline, the idea that you just need to try harder.
And he just demolishes that idea with biology. He points to this one specific thing, the leptin receptor gene mutation.
Okay, so break that down. What does that do?
Well, if you have this mutation, your brain cannot process the signal that tells you you're full.
At all.
Not at all. So willpower becomes, it's completely irrelevant. The physical mechanism is broken.
So then blaming someone for lacking character just makes no sense.
It makes zero sense. The focus has to shift to things like our food environment, to policy, the external factors. Otherwise, we're just perpetuating a really persistent prejudice.
Okay, but hang on. If this determinism is everywhere, what about when someone consciously knows what they should do, but they do the wrong thing anyway?
Right. And that brings us to the prefrontal cortex, the PFC.
The brain's self-regulation center.
The brake pedal, basically. It's the part that inhibits our emotional impulses. But when the PFC is weakened, through stress or fatigue or damage, it can become
incapable.
Organically incapable of stopping a bad action, even if that person could write you a brilliant essay on why it's wrong. The knowledge is there, but the mechanism to act on it is not.
So there's a breakdown in the capacity to regulate.
Exactly.
This is where his argument takes aim at the entire justice system, then.
It has to. If self-regulation is just the output of a healthy PFC, then the whole idea of criminal justice, which is based on free will and moral choice, is, in his view,
nonsensical.
Intellectually and ethically nonsensical. He actually volunteers in capital trials to try and make this point.
What does he do?
He tries to get the jury to shift their perspective.
Yeah.
To see the defendant's behavior not as a measure of moral worth, but as a measure of the damage that their own nervous system sustained over their lives.
That feels like an incredibly tough sell in a courtroom. Does that actually work?
It's extremely difficult. He says his efforts have been, and I'm quoting, almost entirely futile. He's lost 11 of his 13 cases.
Wow.
Jurors might nod along with the science, but when they're faced with a brutal crime, they almost always revert back to wanting to punish. The idea of moral choice is just that deeply ingrained.
Okay, so if the justice system is challenged, what about something more personal, like depression? If free will isn't real, what's the point of therapy?
Well, therapy works, just not because of free will. Take something like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT.
Right, which helps you reframe your thoughts.
It helps you disassemble the cognitive distortions that warp reality. But your success with it depends on factors outside your control.
Like what?
Like whether you happen to be a person who is capable of introspection, or if your brain produces enough serotonin to make those cognitive shifts stick. Free will plays, as he says, no role in your healing.
So we've looked at Sapolsky's challenge to our sense of agency and seen how he argues specific biology underlies our weight, our criminal acts, even our mental health.
Right. And for him, the absence of free will means we have to look at the whole chain of causation. He says people who focus on the exact moment an action is intended, that little spark in the brain they call the early readiness potential, they're missing the point.
Because that spark was itself caused by everything that came before it.
Exactly. It was determined.
And that leads to the really provocative question he leaves for you, the listener, to consider. If your intent to act is just the result of your biology and your environment up to that second, then the truly fascinating question is this.
How did you become the sort of person who would form that intent at that moment?
That's the real challenge.